I just came into this business hungry. I needed to make some money. I believe in my ability to figure it out. How many of you guys realize that if you don't know where you're going, even a distraction looks like an opportunity? Went on to build my own real estate company with the help of my beautiful wife, Jennifer, who's in the audience. Became the #1 independent in the market that I serve. Why don't we keep this thing going? We'll add mortgage, we'll add title, do a coaching company. Everybody else is doing it, right? I believe in my ability to figure it out. Our first coaching client paid us $250,000, and I very quickly realized that I didn't want to be a real estate coach. What's even more important to me than money is freedom. I had taken myself out of the trading time for dollars into the leveraged income of trading opportunities for dollars. And then I said, I'm going to be a coach. So now I'm going to go back to trading time for dollars. And I was like, wait, what am I doing? And I think it's important to stop and say, wait, what am I doing from time to time? So what my wife and I decided to do was, we had sort of like amassed this empire, if you will, in the Lake Norman, North Carolina area. I think I had the very best lot in all of Lake Norman, 500-mile lake. And I was like, we got the best spot. We're going to sell that and everything we own, and we're going to buy this van. How cool is that? Because, guys, I don't know if some of you can relate, but isn't it possible to do all the things they tell you to do and get to a place and just not be happy with where you are? I was talking, shout out, where's Muhammad? There he is right there. I was talking to him earlier. And I said, man, like all of the stages are fun. Was it painful to have 3 jobs and try to make real estate a go? Yeah, but there is also beauty in that season that sometimes I look back and say, man, it'd be really cool to just be doing that again. Granted, I could like go through that season much faster now, knowing what I know now, which is a lot less to do with the tactics that you're going to learn here today. And there's going to be some great tactics. But we went on in this van and we traveled the country. Our goal was to do every national park and then pick a new place to live. We didn't tell our team that though. We were like, yeah, we're coming back maybe. We got through 27 national parks and COVID happened and we couldn't travel anymore. We said, hey, what are we all about? Like, what do we like? And we decided to move to Bozeman, Montana, which is where we live now. We've lived there for the last 4.5 years. Now, mind you, that entire trip was funded by the real estate company and the mortgage company and a little bit of the coaching company that was all prior to EXP. So for those of you that know me in like the EXP limelight and know that I have thousands of agents and it's like a life-changing residual income, like all of this happened before that because I decided that freedom was more important to me than just more money. So my goal today is just to help you enhance your belief in you. And I know that sounds like cliche or like, what's he talking about here? And I'll tell you that this way. When I look back, and the reason that with every fiber in me, I could say, hey, pick a market, drop me in there tomorrow, and I'm going to make $250,000 in my first year in real estate in that market. It doesn't matter what one. I believe that, and I know that to be true for myself because of the experiences that I've been through. And it's so much less like Aaron was just talking about, hey, like getting in these rooms and like learning these things. And it's like, it's so much less about the tactical thing that you're going to learn that's going to help you get 10, 20, 100 or 1,000 more transactions. And it's so much more about you having a new identity when you leave this room that you can do that and you will do that. I was talking to somebody before lunch and I'm just thinking about this talk that I want to give today. And like, just so you know, like my routine before I come up on stage is I just pray for all you guys. I've been in rooms where people get on stages and they say shit that's not true. And they tell you what you think they think you want to hear because they want their talk to be like cool for them. I just believe that every single person in here is going through something and it's different for each of you, but that every single person could walk out of here with one realization, one takeaway that helps them figure out the middle. And when I was talking to this person before lunch, they were like, I know where I want to be and I know what I want to achieve. And I'm doing this right now. And I have a vision for that, but I'm just like, I don't know about this middle part. And what it really comes down to, guys, is in order for you to get from where you are to where you want to be, you're going to have to make some different decisions because the decisions that got you to where you are why you are where you are. And different decisions mean change, and change is scary. And therefore, a lot of times we have this thing in us that we never realize because we never have the courage to take that leap. And what I've found for me to be true, I like that Aaron says that, what would need to be true? What I found for me to be true was pretty simple, actually. In fact, I believe that your beliefs, they dictate your thoughts, they're going to direct your actions, and they're going to define your destination. Now, that sounds cool, and like I would print that out and have that somewhere where you see every day. But what does that really mean? Well, if we can believe something new about ourselves, what's going to happen is that those 96% of thoughts that you have day in and day out, over and over and over again, they're going to begin to change. And if you walk out of here today with a new belief, those 96% of your thoughts that you had today will be different tomorrow. They've probably been the same for months, if not years, up until this point. But it only takes one event where you're like, I can do something. And what happened for me, and I believe I've seen this happen with a lot of other people that have just achieved massive greatness in real estate and out. It doesn't have to be just about real estate, is that they saw somebody or they saw something and they said, I can do that too. So maybe for some of you guys, you've been thinking about a new lead source, and Aaron was talking about probate and, being on the, what do you call it? The doorstep to heaven, the waiting room to heaven. And you're like, that's my thing. Good. Go run with that thing. It's going to be different for each of you. But here's a framework that has served me in order to help me get through that messy middle and to have more courage. Is that simple scales and complexity fails. So I thought it was interesting. I didn't know what Aaron was going to talk about. I didn't know what Leo was going to talk about. But as I stood in the back of the room and I listened to him, I'm like, it's just all the same message. And in the context of real estate, we need leads, right? And I don't care if you get those through media or if you get them through door knocking or if you get them through your database, so that we can have more conversations about selling homes, so that we can sell more homes and build our database. It's just like a circle of three things: leads, conversations, conversion, whatever you want to call it, and database. And that's always been how simple real estate has been for me. I'm a simple guy. I'm like, I didn't go to college. They wouldn't have me. Their loss, not mine. And I just had to figure it out, right? Because I had a desire that I was going to be great long before I was great, if that makes sense. And this idea of simple scales and complexity fails, I knew what I wanted, just like my friend before lunch. He knows what he wants. And I tried a bunch of things. And like I was telling Muhammad just a few minutes ago, look, man, your success journey is going to be littered with failure. Embrace it. Be excited about the failures. Just understand that they're moving you to where you want to be. And mine, I remember I was on the come up, and this guy came into my market, and it really excited me because he worked with me, and it was the most expensive house I had ever sold up until that point. It was $2.3 million in a market that I was working where my average sale price was $225. So like 10x and I was like psyched, man. And then lo and behold, this guy ends up being a real estate coach. And I'm like, oh, this is great. And he starts inviting me to, like, we were already going to the same church, and he's like, come sit with me. And then he invited me to the cigar shop, and he's like, come do Bible study with me. And this guy's like slowly taking me under his wing. And I'm like, man, this is like amazing. Like, this is what I need, right? Because I wasn't really sure what I was building or where I was going. That distraction looked like an opportunity. And, that blessing of that home sale turned into be a relationship where now I'm working with this guy in a coaching capacity. But if we truly take to heart this idea that every failure moves us closer to success, well, then they're not really failures anymore. And what happened in that experience of my time with that person is that I didn't get closer to what I wanted, but I learned exactly what I didn't want, which was to pound the phones, scream at people, and just have this like life existence that for him was great and for me felt awful. And that was okay. And I quickly moved into a different coaching model, and it, helped me go on to build my agent empire, that I call it. I look at my professional life up into this point, and I think it's important to understand that there's different sectors, right? So my professional life has been like an agent empire, a team empire, and an organizational empire now at EXP. But it all started with this opportunity right here. Somebody was talking about the scraps earlier. I was talking to them and they're like, man, I just get the scraps. So I was in that situation. I had just relocated. We got married in the end of '06 and I moved to Charlotte, North Carolina. Didn't know a soul, was probably a little more confident than I should have been in that scenario. And I was like, I'm going to build my real estate business down here. Now, I came from a team. I just didn't know it was a team. I came from an independent brokerage where they gave me all the business that I did. And I literally could go in the office and people would actually come through the front door. Back in the days where, like, we used fax machines. We had no cell service in our market. So they had to come to the office to get the information. It was a wonderful thing. Beautiful time. And I'm like, how could I ever sell real estate like that? I did. I figured out a way. But so we moved. So I'm like, we're going to Charlotte, man. It's like thousands of transactions. It's going to be so much better. And it was so much worse. And then 2007 happens and I'm like, shit, what am I going to do now? And I'm trying any way I can, right? I'm showing up to these weekly meetings at my office and I'm really just kind of like over my office. Like I'm the guy that's getting the leads that everybody else in the office has tried to work. And like 18 people have determined that they're worthless leads. And then I get a crack at it. Like this is my existence. I'm like, this isn't going to work. This isn't going to take me from 3 jobs to 1 job. But one day, so I'm in there, I'm in the office, I'm trying to be present and I'm trying to figure it out. This guy walks in. Every office has one of these guys. He's like the guy that you kind of cringe, but he's like eccentric enough that you're almost like, what's going to happen today? Like, what's the show going to be? So he walks in and he's got these tickets to an event. He calls it a super conference. I'm like, well, that sounds great. And he's like, this is going to be the best thing. This is so valuable, this ticket. And you can come, it's only $500. He's like, let's go. We can ride in my new car. He had just gotten a new Camry hybrid. It's so funny. I was at a marketing event last week and I saw the exact car and it like was visceral for me. I'm like, that's the car. And so we ride down to this event in Orlando and this was my moment, guys. This was where my belief went through the roof. I don't know what tactics they talked about. I just know that I walked in broken, scared, trying to figure it out. My wife was like threatening to leave me without saying she was going to leave me. I mean, the suitcase would come out to the top of the stairs all the time. I'm like, she's going to go back to New York. I'm going to lose her. And I was like, I got to figure this out. So I show up to this event and they give you out the name tags and like some of the name tags have ribbons on them and the ribbons are different colors. And I'm like, well, why doesn't mine have a ribbon on it? And I'm just, John from Charlotte. And I got Mary with like all these blinging colors on her name tag. And so I walk up to these people. I'm like, hey, what's that mean? And they're like, oh, this is for when you make over 250,000 GCI. And then this color means you made over 500,000 GCI. And this color means you made over 1 million GCI. And I'm like, more of the black flags. Where are the black flags? I want to talk to them. And what happened to me, and I don't know where this come from, guys. I just think each of you have some story like this in you. But I've always believed that I could do what somebody else could do. I don't know if that comes from my upbringing. My parents were wonderful. They raised me with unconditional love and support. But I was like, you're making that much money? And I'm sizing them up and I'm like, dude, how? And they're like, oh, we do this coaching program. And I'm like, wow. And over the course of the next 3 hours, now it's a 3-day conference and we're 3 hours in, we have a lunch break. I don't go to lunch because I don't have any money. That's the honest to God truth. I had like brought, granola bars and stuff with me and I don't know how I'm going to sustain for 3 days, but I was like, I'll figure it out. And I don't go to lunch because I knew the salad at the lunch at the JW Marriott was like $14. I was like, ain't happening. So I go outside in the front, right out front of this place, and I call my wife. And I'm like, babe, I found it. I don't know what is going on here, but I'm going to be doing it. And she goes, that's really nice, babe. And you could tell she was kind of preoccupied and aggravated, whoever calls your wife. And she's like that. You think you're like, this is going to be such a meaningful conversation. Like she's doing laundry and she's aggravated that I'm interrupting her. And she goes, well, I don't know what you're doing, but you better not buy nothing or I'm going to divorce you. And granted, she's in the room, so everything's cool. I just had a burning like feeling in my chest that this was my future. So I went to the back of the room. You know, they had the copies. You had to press hard, and it was like 3 copies. And I said, hey, before I give you this credit card, I was talking to a guy out there, and he said that you won't charge me for 90 days. Is that true? And they said, yeah, we're not going to charge you for 90 days. And I said, you'll put that on there? They're like, yeah, we'll put it right on here. We'll write it in and we'll circle it. And I was like, all right, cool. So I technically didn't buy anything, but I stayed at the back of the room at every table, and I literally signed up for every tool, system, and the coaching before I left that event. Now, very interesting. Results first. The next 90 days, I made more money than I'd ever earned in a year before I went full-time in real estate, and it put me on a trajectory that like changed my life. But what's really important about that, the takeaway, is that I believed I could do it because I had a pathway to get me through the middle, and I cherished and held on to that pathway. I was like, if you're already where I want to be and you're going to show me how to get there, and you have a plan that you've taken other people through to get there, I'm all in. Now, what happened with the other 2 guys that were in that car with me is they didn't pay for anything because they thought they could hack it. They were like, we've got this figured out. I'm like, guys, we all suck in this car. We don't have anything figured out. On the way back, as we're leaving the event, they're talking about how they're going to do their version of the thing we just learned. And I'm just sitting in the back like, these are the dumbest guys. I got to get away from these guys as fast as possible. And they're both out of the business, and I'm where I am. So here's something else I believe to be true, Aaron. The best marketer always wins. So I had a pathway. I was running. I was doing all the things, but like I had to figure out the marketing. And like Aaron said a few minutes ago, it's going to be more about the conversations that you have than the things that you actually hear from those seats. And one of those conversations for me occurred at the bar, where a lot of great conversations happen. After said 3-day seminar, version 2 or 3 that I went to after that. And I'm having a conversation with a guy, and I learned an important question. What's working for you in your business right now? So when I went to these future events, I just said, what's working for you in your business right now? Because what do people want to do? They want to tell you about all the great things and why they're so great. Like, it's just natural, right? Like, we like to brag on ourselves. Well, you know, especially at these real estate crowd's a funny crowd. Like, we're all number one, right? We're all the best. Like, everything's rosy. But I would just ask people, what's actually working in your business right now? And I had this conversation with this guy from Canada, and he said, man, believe it or not, I got this ugly sales letter, and it's working like magic. And I said, tell me more. Like, what are you doing? He said, well, I'm advertising. Again, 2007, not a great time to sell a house. He's like, I'm advertising. I'll sell your home in 39 days, or I'll pay you $4,000 cash. So like a spin on the guaranteed sale. And I was like, dude, that's genius, because I can't buy a house. I'm too broke. Now, could I have bought the house? Absolutely. Again, it's belief, right? And what happens is, if we don't have a belief, we're never going to have the courage to take the action. But I was like, if I get caught with my pants down and I got to pay $4,000, I think I can figure that out. So my belief in that marketing message was super high. And I went back and I started doing it, and it worked. And now people are calling me, and people are like, hey, how's that work? Well, I got to come out and take a look at the house. Obviously, I can't make a guarantee unless I see the house. And people are inviting me into their houses. People that already knew other agents, people that already had other agents doing all the right things and following up with them. But it's 2007, so all bets are out the door. Like, we got to get this thing sold. It's an emergency. We got to have this guy come over. And I went on to make millions of dollars off of that one ad. I ran it for years. I had an ISA for me for 7 years straight, and it really crushed. And it was my first foray into understanding the power of marketing, because all these other agents are struggling at my office, and we're the number one office in the marketplace at that time when I was at Remax. And I'm going in behind the Remax agents that are expiring these listings on this piece of marketing and taking their listings over, and the company's yelling at me, and I'm like, I just did a solid one for the company. Like, why are you mad? You want me to not market to Remax agents? That's against the code of ethics in I have to market to everybody the same. So that kind of led me to starting my own company. I was like, I'm over this balloon thing. So we all got a brick wall, and one of my challenges is that I had to cut 57 slides down to about 7. So we all have this brick wall that we have to run through to do our next thing. And like I said, we're all at a different stage. So some of you guys are doing really well in here. Some of you guys are freaking crushing it. And some of you are going through the worst, darkest season of your whole life. Everybody's got a brick wall, though, because what I'll say to the person that's crushing it is that you're probably crushing it for a reason, and there's probably a level that's 10x bigger than the level you're at. But if you keep trying to do the things that got you to where you are, you're never going to get there. So you got a brick wall too. All of us do. And this brick wall idea comes to me because we used to run an ad in my marketplace. This was like marketing 2.0. As an agent, I'm marketing for deals. And then as a team leader, I'm marketing for agents. And I ran this ad that was like my version of that 39-day or 4,000 guarantee, which worked better than 39 days or I'll buy your house. And it worked better than 39 days or 6,000. And it worked better than 39 days or 2,000. Don't ask me why, I just did. You got to test this stuff. But I ran this ad in my marketplace and I said, hey, I don't care if you've ever sold a house before. Come work for me and I guarantee you'll make $100,000 or I'll pay you the difference. And it worked so good. It worked so good because that's all anybody cares about. All of my competitors are like, we got a better split. We got better this. We got better that. But what does the person care about? The person cares about, I need to put $100,000 in my pocket so that I can be successful at real estate. And, you know, again, I'm doing this in a market where there's 250,000 at this point average sale price. And, you know, I'm talking to teachers, and in my marketplace, a teacher made $35,000 a year. And if they were really getting after it and they were working 90 hours a week because they were also the athletic coach, they could tack on another 15,000 a year. So I come across this guy, and you ever just like have for all my team leaders out there, like you sit down across from somebody and you know they're going to be a stud, and you're like, I just got to get this person. Like, what? And I'm sitting down with him, and I decided I'm just going to flip the script on him. And I said, listen, man, you're making $35,000, $50,000 a year when you're coaching. You're working 90 hours a week. You're a third generation teacher, meaning your dad was a teacher, your grandfather was a teacher. I said, is that what you want your life to look like? And he said, no. He said, I see where my dad's at. He can't even retire. Like I have to find a better way. And I said, well, first and foremost, I'm the most expensive place in town to work. I said, you could go anywhere else in this market and get a better split than what I have. But what I do have is I have a proven plan, and I guarantee you'll make $100,000. And he said to me, he said, John, he said, if I could make 75,000, I will run through a brick wall for you every day. And I said, we'll see. I said, but it's still going to be $100,000. And he made, I think, 113,000 that first year with me. Went on to make 200,000, and then my Achilles heel went on to leave me and become my competition. And him and his business partner did 75 million last year. Like, it literally changed his life. And I got to be a part of that. Like, how cool is that? Like, these are real lives, and these are real brick walls that we have to run through. But when you show up and you say, I'm willing to run through a brick wall, anything is possible. And that is the mentality that we all have to have. And if we're not trying to run through a brick wall right now, we need to figure out why and what is. And I think that the reason that people joined me and paid my high splits and said, yeah, I want to choose you over anybody else in this town is because we had a proven plan for people. And the proven plan increases the belief and increases the confidence that they can do it too. And then all of a sudden they will have the courage to take that action. So this is a picture of back Before I went to that first real estate conference, before I realized how bad of a situation I was in, we had just gotten married, and I found this really cool pool up at the top of the resort that like nobody else knew was there. It was like the other pool was like spring break MTV style, and this pool was like this little oasis up there. And I used to go up there every day. I found it on the second afternoon we were there, and for the rest of our time there, I would go up there, and I had this one book with me. And I'll never forget this book. It was The Power of Intention by Wayne Dyer. And I don't know why I had that book. Like, it's just the book I had on my trip. And I'm reading that book, and it's so crazy. Like, gives me goosebumps. I declared in the right hand side of that pool that I was going to become a multimillionaire in an MLM model. Don't ask me how or why. It was just like a vision that to this day, I can remember how I was sitting at the pool, how I was reading the book, because the book was talking about this leveraged income. And I'm like, this is like, there's nothing better than this. And I packed up, went home to my hard, started grinding, and forgot about that moment for years. But the funny thing about a vision is that it doesn't care where you are. It doesn't care who you are. It doesn't care where you've been. When you set that intention powerfully in your soul, like it's going to come to pass. The problem is we just don't dare to dream anymore. We fall into these like patterns of people's expectations around us. And, you know, if we think about average and we think about like, let's just think about the average realtor for a moment. You guys are already anomalies if you've been in this business more than 2 years because you're still here. You're still in this business. Like you're already destined for greatness. You just don't quite yet own it. And that happened for me. And then I remember we came over to EXP, and honestly, I wasn't thinking about rev share. I mean, I was a little bit, but my thought process when I joined EXP was Chad, who ran through the brick wall, Andrew, who left me 3 weeks before I went away on my year-long trip, a guy that I loved like a brother. It was my closest friend that I've ever had in my life, walks out on me, turns his back on me, and takes 4 of my agents. I was like, EXP is going to make it so that never happens again. It's going to take away that pain because they're going to stay with EXP even when they leave me, and we'll go build something together. And it'll be different, but it'll be cool. But I had this idea, this belief that if I did EXP for 5 years, I was already doing everything that I needed to be successful at EXP. And in 5 years' time, that success would start to compound through revenue share, and it would start to give me some freedom. And I didn't care about the $16,000 cap because, again, it wasn't more money. I was already making 7 figures a year. It was about more freedom. So I get into EXP, and I'm about probably 60 days in, and I'm like, wait a minute. This is alignment on a whole nother level. Like I really cared about the people that I brought into my world through my company. I treat it, we always say, my wife and I, it was our baby. Like we poured everything into that company. And the pain that we would feel when people left and like turned their back on us to become our competition because they wanted more for themselves, it was excruciating. And I was like, EXP is going to take that away. But it wasn't until I was 60 days in or so, and I was like, wait a minute. I can now love on my people. But before, was I really loving them, or was I only loving them enough to help me? Now I can love on them to whatever extent that they might be bigger than me, and that would be cool. And I come into EXP and I bring a guy in, and he's much bigger than me. And he's going to be here later tonight, and he's changed my life like so dramatically. And he recruited a guy who recruited a guy, and because of that, Aaron's in my world now. And I didn't know Aaron. I never heard of Aaron before until he showed up in my organization. And yeah, it's just really crazy, guys. And I want to share one final story with you, and I got to get off here because there's a whole bunch of awesome goodness that's come up, and I'm emotional today. I don't know why. But August 22nd of this past year, my phone rings. You know, sometimes your phone rings and you know it's like an oh shit call. And this guy's calling me, and I'm like, instantly my brain's like, why is this guy calling me? It can't be good if he's calling me. What's going on? And I was driving down Peach Street where I live, and I answered the phone, and it was 8:30 in the morning. And he said, "Hey, John," he said, "Mikey, my father-in-law, he went to the hospital and he went into cardiac arrest, and he went out and he died for 6 minutes, and they brought him back. But he's on life support." So I quickly get home. I'm home in like 2 minutes, and I tell my wife, I said, "Pack your bags. We got to go." And we got on a flight in an hour and a half. And we go to see my father-in-law. We get there later that night. This is him in the emergency room. And we brought our funeral clothes with us because we didn't think it was possible for him to survive 6 minutes being dead and then come back. And so we bought a one-way ticket to New York, and we were there. And we were there for 8 days before he came off life support. And now we're like, all right, what are we dealing with? Like, how neurologically damaged is he going to be? Like, is he going to need a caretaker? And all this. My wife stays there for 40 days, just stays. I had to come back to Bozeman 2 weeks later because my daughter had a brand new school. She was going to a new Christian school that we were really excited about, and her first day of school was up. So I had to come back. Meanwhile, Jen stayed with her dad through rehab. They put him into basically a nursing home where he had to walk again after being on bed rest for so long. And then she stayed there until, late, 40 days, and then came home. And then we decided we're going to go back for Christmas. So we go back on Christmas, and he's fine. He's a freaking miracle. He's a freaking miracle. But here's my belief about that. My daughter's an only child. She was there with her dad. I believe that energy cannot be created nor destroyed. She brought her presence, her energy with her. And I think that's what pulled him out of that life support situation that he's in. I think that that's why he's okay today. I don't think that her not being there would have had the same outcome. And all of this to say, I was a struggling agent reading scripts, but I decided that I was going to be great, that I was going to believe that I was deserving and could be great. And all the rest is semantics, like the tactics, the skills. You're going to figure all that stuff out. But you've got to first decide that you're going to figure all that stuff out. And I believe that, when you build this empire, it's going to unequivocally change your life. And it's easier to be great than it is to struggle. But you've got to have the courage to take that first step. And what's going to happen is it's going to change other lives in the process. So who's counting on you?
If I paid you as fast as humanly possible, that was the most meaningful thing I could control for you. If you're like, what's he talking about? It takes 3 days to get paid. It's because your bank doesn't participate in real-time payment. But if you do, and we get a settlement statement and a copy of a check, let's say in the morning, 75% of the checks were dispersed in under 14 minutes last year.